The question come in, and I get asked this question a lot as well. HMO as a term is very loosely used.
Yes.
Many people do not understand what HMO actually means and what its actual definition is. So caller just asked, what is a HMO?
Yeah, so first of all, apologies, I shouldn't be using terms like that, assuming people understand. So HMO really is the technical term that has multiple occupation,
Yes.
which is where you've got a number of people living together in the same property that are not related to each other.
Okay.
So for example, you could have one house with a family of say 7, and that's just a family house, and next door you could have 7 people that are not related to each other living in individual rooms that they're renting,
Okay.
and that would be a HMO. But the quantity varies. Essentially, if it's more than 3 people, generally tends to be what you're referring to. But there's various technical terms and depends what you
And what's the legal requirements from turning a 3-bed house, just say in Spark Hill? What's the legal requirements to turn that into a HMO?
So for example, if you're turning a property, let's say a run-the-mill house into a HMO, first of all I'd ask you why you want to do it. Often the only reason is because it'll make more money, and then I say, well, you need to think about it as a business, just as we've been talking about. So first of all, who will be your client? Who is going to be living in that property? Who is the customer? Who you're trying to target? So sometimes it might be social housing, it could be supportive living, it could be students, or it could be what I do, professional higher end of the market. So for example, with all due respect, if you're looking for professional high-end tenants, they're probably not going to want to come and live in Spark Hill.
Yes.
Having said that, I was born in Spark Hill, so I can probably say that. So you have to understand your market and match what you're trying to create for the right marketplace. And then your basic compliance is really, it's about the safety of people in the property. That's what it's about. It's about having the fire doors, fire alarm system, emergency lighting. So if there is, God forbid, a fire, that they can get out the property safely. And with these things, I wouldn't just go and start doing it. Make sure you ask people who are involved, speak to the council. You've got planning considerations to have as well from planning.
Can you
commission,
give
and also
any
licensing.
one example that you may know of where HMO has gone wrong? Where
There's many.
I mean, I deal with many scenarios, but
Yeah, I think
would like to hear from
there's
yourself.
so many misconceptions and misunderstanding. So for example, from a product point of view, I see often that people create some might call them shared houses, a shared house or a HMO, whatever you want to call it, in the wrong location for the wrong type of person.
Okay.
Just as I gave an example, if you're trying to attract professional high-end city workers, they're probably not going to come and live in Spark Hill. Yeah. So, but however, you create this beautiful house, and then you struggle why you don't get those people there. So that's from a marketing example. Then from a licensing example.
for legal implications upon the landlord, if they haven't done things properly in terms of converting the property into a HMO, what's the typical scenario?
Yeah, so in Birmingham, for example, you have the HMO licensing team, and they have a lot of power, and their job is to ensure that properties have been run safely and the licenses have been applied for. These are licenses, there's compliance and regulation in this area, so it's making sure your property is safe. My view has always been, look, if I'm not prepared to live in that property myself, I really shouldn't be asking somebody else to live in it. That's just my viewpoint. Their focus is on safety, not the quality of the accommodation. It's about, is it safe? So for example, if the fire doors aren't there, if it's not licensed, a license application hasn't been submitted, the penalties could be substantial, like £15,000 is not unusual.
Yes.
And significantly
I've seen a
more.
documentary, I think about a year ago, about these squats in London, how landlords were converting 3-bedroom houses into 15-bed houses.
Yes.
You know, and giving people literally a letterbox to live
Yes. Yeah, and you think, would you live there yourself? No, you wouldn't. But why you expect another human being to stay there and pay you for the privilege
Yes.
of doing that? You really, what you're doing is taking advantage of somebody else's misery.
Yes.
So I'm a firm believer that we're going to have to answer for everything that we've done on this earth at some point.
Okay.
And how you lead your life is really important.